Former Hutchins students speak of child sexual abuse dating back 50 years.
I remember my parents meeting Hickman and telling me to try not to be alone with him.
Calling out, outspoken Senator Jackie Lambie demoted from the Palmer United Party.
He's under pressure because of bad political decisions. However, that doesn't give him the right to spread hurtful rumours about me.
Tasmania on a high after a historic visit by the Chinese president.
This is far more than just a public relations exercise. This has substance to it.
And protests as the Budget Act threatens hundreds of jobs at Australia's public broadcasters.
No ifs, no buts, no ABC cuts.
Good evening and welcome to ABC News. I'm Peter G. The Royal Commission into Child Sexual Abuse has opened in Hobart, with an elite Hobart private school firmly under the microscope. 4 Hutchins students have described the abuse they suffered at the hands of former headmaster David Lawrence and teacher Lyndon Hickman. The inquiries also heard how late parliamentarian Michael Hodgman reported the abuse to the school's board, but nothing was done.
The prestigious Hobart Boys School has been the first in Tasmania to come under the public spotlight at the Royal Commission.
First public hearing in Tasmania.
Former Hutchins headmaster David Lawrence and teacher Lyndon Hickman abused boys at the Anglican school in the 1960s. One witness, known only as AOA, told how he'd been groomed by Lawrence, who was his French tutor. A piece of evidence to be heard suggests former state and federal MP and old boy Michael Hodgman made the school aware of Lawrence's pedophile tendencies.
Mr. Hodgman did report the effect of the conversation to the board, but nothing was done about it.
That evidence is expected to be heard tomorrow. Tyson Shine, ABC News.
Tasmania is hoping to cash in on the hype of yesterday's historic visit from the Chinese president. Xi Jinping was in Hobart less than a day, but the government says the exposure was priceless.
They're images that have been beamed into millions of Chinese lounge rooms. President Xi Jinping and Madame Peng's every move was documented by China's state broadcaster.
当地儿童向习近平夫妇献花，并赠送塔斯马尼亚州特产。
What we need to do now as a state, and what we will do, is turn that interest into investment.
We've got to make sure that state growth and the Department of Tourism has the resources to really capitalise on those opportunities.
With over 60 million hits on Chinese social media already, it appears tourism marketing has had a good head start. Anna Fromberg, ABC News.
Thousands of people have gathered in Fiji's capital Suva to welcome India's Prime Minister on a state visit. Narendra Modi says Fiji could help strengthen his country's engagement with the Pacific. Mr Modi will address Fiji's parliament and hold talks with several Pacific leaders who've travelled there for his visit. Nearly 40% of Fijians are of Indian descent. It's the first visit by an Indian premier to the South Pacific nation in 33 years. The Chinese President Xi Jinping is on his way home to Beijing tonight, ending a historic visit aimed at strengthening ties with Australia. By his side in Hobart and then Sydney was First Lady Peng Liyuan. Peng Liyuan, who's seen as the emerging power on the world stage.
Adored in China and today celebrated on the streets of Sydney, China's First Lady spent a morning with excited students. The presidential visit's now over, but the regional tour rolls on. Next stop, New Zealand. Letitia Lemke, ABC News.
In finance, falling iron ore prices have undermined the share market. Shares slumped to a 4-week low as iron ore prices hit their lowest point in 5 years. Here's Phillip Lasker.
Our big earner, iron ore, is the worst performing commodity this year. Here's a forecast for the next 4 years. The price isn't expected to recover, and as you can see, supply will outstrip demand by larger amounts as the years go by. Particularly concerning on the demand side is the recent fall in Beijing house prices, the first in 2 years. While on the supply side, the big miners have invested $120 billion in iron ore, betting that China's steel production won't peak until 2030, and that bet isn't looking good. Fortescue's also at a 5-year low. And players like BC Iron, Mount Gibson and Atlas Iron would be struggling because iron ore prices are below their break-even cost. Our commodities-constrained market went down again. ANZ has stood down 7 traders in relation to the alleged rigging of the interest rate market. Orica's selling its chemical division and plans to cut another 700 jobs next year. But some people look like making money. Talk is that Medibank private shares have been snapped up, so retail investors will end up paying the top price of $2 a share. But it suggests you could still make a good stag profit. We're all worrying about what happens when the US starts raising interest rates next year. This represents the average performance of the US stock market on 8 previous occasions when the US central bank started putting up interest rates. You'll see the market doesn't start to flatten out until around 9 months after the rate increase. So don't worry, you have at least another year. And lower commodity prices drove the Australian dollar below 86 US cents. And that's finance.
Tasmania is held on for a dramatic draw on the final day of the Sheffield Shield match against Western Australia at Bellerive Oval. The Tigers began aggressively chasing the 325-run victory target, but were soon in a desperate fight to stave off defeat. James Faulkner and tail-ender Sam Rainbird combining to salvage a draw. Jonathan Wells was impressive in the afternoon session, taking the attack to the Western Australian bowlers. He and James Faulkner notched a 50-run stand before Simon Mackin claimed the prize wicket. Quick wickets put the pressure back on the Tigers, but all-rounder Faulkner's unbeaten half-century guided the side to safety. Tonight's weather photo of a sunset over White Beach was sent in by Theo Van Loon. Here's Simon McCulloch.
The evening was fine and mostly sunny across the state today. A little bit of cloud in the west this morning with a few very light showers there. Maximum temperatures today were 5 to 8 degrees above average in the east, but close to average elsewhere. State's high was actually 29 at Campania in the late afternoon, while overnight temperatures close to average, and it did get down to -1 at Lyowini. Hobart's range 11 to 27, 7 to 19 the range for Launceston, and 17 for Burnie and Devonport. Rain to 9 a.m. and some moderate falls in the west only, really, with 18 at Mount Reid. There was 12 at Queenstown and 5 at Strathgordon, but just 1 at Strawn. And if we look at the satellite sequence today, we can see a little bit of high-level cloud initially around Tasmania and some low-level cloud to the west, but otherwise cloud-free and no significant rain after 9 o'clock. That's all ahead of this fairly extensive area of cloud, which includes a front and trough heading our way for tomorrow. And we'll see on the chart there's actually a lot of cloud indicated in there as well, but there's actually a trough and front that cross the state tomorrow, with a low-pressure system developing on the trough and finishing up to the southeast of Tasmania with a bit of a southerly change over the southern half of the state. We can expect some rain to extend to most districts, but totals are likely to be fairly light for tomorrow. This trough moves away on Friday morning with the next ridge moving in, some clearing rain in the northeast and some showers in the west and south. And then we're back into a northwesterly flow with above average temperatures again on Saturday ahead of an approaching front with a little bit of rain to extend from the northwest again. Interstate for tomorrow, some showers and more storms for Brisbane, showers for Adelaide, a shower or two clearing from Perth, possible late showers for Melbourne, but fine for the other capitals. Tasmania's forecast and some rain at times gradually extending throughout during the morning. Rainfall totals generally less than 5 millimetres for most of the state, and there is just a hint of a southerly change pushing up over the southern half of the state during the afternoon. So rain at times for all the population centres tomorrow, top of 19 for Burnie and Devonport, 11 to 23 for Launceston and 24 for St Helens, 19 for Strawn, 22 for Swansea and 21 for Hobart after a minimum of 14. Sunrise tomorrow is at 5:33. Coastal waters, north to northwesterly winds of 10 to 20 knots, up to 30 knots in the southwest early, but lighter in the north. Winds will tend southwest to southeast to lead to 15 knots about western and southern areas during the day. Southwest swell of 2 to 3 metres in the west and south, a low westerly swell in Bass Strait, a southerly swell in the east. A strong wind warning is still current tomorrow for the south coast. On Friday, early rain about the far northeast with showers about the west and south easing around the middle of the day, but the odd shower developing in the east for a period. Fine for Burnie, Devonport and Launceston, shower or two clearing from Hobart. Then on Saturday, a cold front approaching with north-northwesterly winds. Chance of some rain about the north and west with a slight chance of rain over the remainder. Some rain at times for Burnie, Devonport and Launceston, and the possibility of some rain developing for Hobart, but still a top of 25. That's tonight's weather. Here's Peter.
Thanks, Simon. You can catch up on the 7 o'clock news anytime via the ABC's iView service. Just go to iview.abc.net.au. Type in ABC News and select Tasmania. And watch your local nightly news on TV, online and on mobile. That's ABC News for now. Next up, 7:30.